Hello, everybody, and welcome to the new Bat Friends Adventures episode number 102. I'm one of your hosts, Chris, alongside the world champion, Joe. What's up, Joe?
Goo goo kachoo. It's 102. Boo boo. Kitty fuck.
Correct.
That amused me. I don't care.
Another socially distant episode.
Yes. So, I just made myself think of it, and this is apropos of nothing, but I don't care. So, um, you don't keep up with what's going on in the toy world, right? Really?
Not really, no.
Okay. So, I saw a week or two ago an article talking about how there is a $700 Optimus Prime coming out, action figure.
Yes.
You probably saw what I'm about to reference then. And then somebody shared a video that I ended up watching, which was Kevin Smith and Jay Muse playing with this $700 Optimus, because using voice commands, you can make Optimus transform from a truck into a robot and then back into a truck and make him like roll out and attack and stuff. And I was like, this is amazing, because this means that we're on our way to actually having Transformers eventually. So a little robot that can transform, you can build a big robot that can transform.
I did see that one.
And
Usually
fun
when
fact,
when the big toy stuff happens, it enters my world. But I don't keep like in depth with toy stuff. I do a little
I'm
bit of
getting
Funko and I do a little bit of Star Wars. Other than that, I do not.
well, and the weird thing for me is I'm getting pulled into it a little more, because I think I told you last time you were actually over here, or maybe it was actually last week off air, that NECA is finally making the pizza monsters from the 80s cartoon of Turtles,
Yeah.
which, for those that don't know or never watched the cartoon, just imagine the xenomorphs from Aliens, but yellow and with eyes. And then this week, because it's part of their like pre-order Friday or whatever, where they do this big push. And then this week they had they had the 2-packs, because that's how they're doing a lot of the cartoon action figures. And one of the 2-packs was Ace Duck and Mutagen Man, and Mutagen Man had like a faceplate. So like a lot of the toys now have different heads you can pop in and off. But because Mutagen Man's face is like in the tank, it's a faceplate of his face that you can pop off to give him different expressions. And I'm like, shit, am I gonna start being a fucking toy collector now? Because this is pretty awesome.
So this has nothing to do with anything in our realms, but I don't know how much you follow like Nintendo,
A little bit.
but they do these online, what they call directs, and they're basically
Okay.
online sales pitches.
Okay.
And they're always a lot of fun, and they do a couple a year where it's like indie games, like it's the indie showcase. So they did one the other day, and there's a bunch of stuff in it. But one of the things they showed in it was that new Turtles game.
Yes.
Finally, like announcing that it's coming to Nintendo Switch, everybody, and here it is. And it was really funny to watch, like my friends who are more on the gaming side, but didn't know that this game existed. Or like, did you see this, Chris? Oh my god! I was like, yeah, this was announced like months ago.
But it was Turtles World then, because it's just like, oh my god, a new Turtles game! Oh my god!
Yeah. And honestly, I don't remember how I found out. I might have found out because of one of my podcasts, but even then, I'm like, okay, if I didn't figure out that way, I think days later you said something to me about it.
Because I
So I'm
think
like, that's how it entered my world, was through like podcasts and comics.
yeah, because I think you asked me, have you heard about this new Turtles game? And I went, absolutely, I heard
Yeah.
about this Turtles game. So yeah, but yeah.
But it
So
was funny to see people like discovering it now, like that's
I
a
know
thing, and they're like, it looks just like the old ones. Like, yeah, it does. It's awesome.
it's gonna be amazing. Um, I really hope it's not a Switch exclusive. Um,
I don't think it is.
I hope not, because I cannot to myself justify buying a Switch just to get a Turtles game. but I think we talked about it before this game got previewed. I really want a new Turtles game because that's the one thing missing in my life right now. So to double back for my own edification, just because I want to have a little bit of this conversation. So I brought up the Kevin Smith Optimus thing to a friend, and then I made the "You're a cigarette" reference, which is one of my favorite references to make. And I made it to that friend because a few weeks earlier, I had said to him, have you ever seen the Clerks cartoon? And he's like, and this friend is late 20s. So he's, a bit, he's younger than you and a bit younger than me. And he's like, no. And I go, oh, sir, I think it's the best thing Kevin Smith's ever done. And that's why I wanted to bring that back up, because I said it to him and then had the realization, and I know we haven't had that conversation, but I genuinely think the Clerks cartoon is the funniest thing and best thing, like in retrospect, like now that we're, not at the end of his career, but, towards the end of his career, at least as a producer or, creator of that kind of stuff. I think the Clerks cartoon's the best thing he ever did.
So that, if I remember my history of that, a lot of the writers and everything on that show were Simpsons writers back then.
Well, so sidebar, that doesn't really matter, but just for context, do you own the DVD set?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And this is part of what I told him, too, is my favorite part. So have you listened to the commentary track?
I don't think so. If I have, it's been a long time.
Okay, so here's your homework. When you need a little pick-me-up, just watch the Clerks, and it's for anyone in the audience, too. Just watch the Clerks cartoons with the commentary track, because it's basically Kevin podcasting like 10 years before podcasting was a thing.
Yeah.
Their commentary track specifically for those episodes, and they reference it, which is my favorite part, has nothing to do with the show pretty much. They just start talking about what I think they talk about Fight Club at one point. Like, they're just talking about whatever they want to talk about, and it's very fun. But I'm pretty sure I know the showrunner, and I thought that the writers were basically Kevin and God, I can't think of his name, but he was from Seinfeld. He was one of the head writers at Seinfeld.
I thought he stole some Simpsons writers, because I thought it came out opposite of Simpsons, which we're talking about Simpsons in its prime. So,
because it was on like Tuesdays.
I could be wrong. Like I said, it's been a while since I've looked into all that stuff.
Yeah, I got you.
But I thought that's what it was. So, saying if we're going with that version, I disagree, because I don't think that he's as involved as you would want or you would think he is. If he is involved as much as you think he is, then yeah, I agree with you. It's at least up there, if not the best.
Yeah, I'll say either way, I stand by what I said, because it's like the discussion that we've had in the past where it's like, what do most people say is the best Star Wars movie, whether we agree or not? What do most people say? Empire. That wasn't mostly George Lucas, but if you're having a conversation of like, what's the best thing George Lucas has done, most people colloquially would say Empire, even though it was possibly made better because George wasn't directing and George had other people involved. So even if Kevin was not that involved, then all that says to me is that it's better when Kevin isn't as involved in his projects. But yeah.
We were talking about it. Me and Mike were talking about it. And we were just kind of discussing on air going through our feelings on going to Terrificon.
Okay.
And I know we did it here on this show last week too.
Yep.
And they had announced Michael Rooker. It was like the first announcement they made. Rooker's going to be there. And Mike's going through. He's like, yeah. He's like, it's funny. He went through all his titles, and nowhere on there is the Suicide Squad, which is like, if you had Rooker, wouldn't you put like Michael Rooker from the Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy? Wouldn't that be the first two things you'd think of?
Yeah.
Just in general, not even like as a comic book thing. And I was just like, Mike, when the day comes, because the day will come when I decide once again that I don't have enough work to do, so I'm going to put on a con. And I'm probably going to call up Joe and be like, Joe, let's put on a con. And we'll both hate ourselves for months on end.
Yep.
But it'll happen, and let's say I book Rooker. His only credit will be Michael Rooker, Mallrats. And that's how I'm going to promote it.
You know, you say that. But if you and I went through all the promotional materials for so many of these conventions, I guarantee you we can find conventions where that's what the people putting them on did.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Not since Rooker, but like the thing that they liked them for the most, that's what they're... hey, it's so-and-so from this.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Happens all the time.
Bunch of fucking amateurs, that's why.
All right, Joe, we're trying to delay the inevitable, but let's get on with it.
Yeah.
Everybody, we're going to watch episode 16 of the new Batman Adventures, titled Animal Act. This is written by, and I gotta say, I'm disappointed in our girl here, Hilary J. Barter, and directed by Kirk Getta. All right, Joe. Once I find my remote.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're in crisis mode, everybody. The remote's gone.
Oh no! Show comes to a grinding halt.
I found it. This is all staying in.
Absolutely. That's...
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
So I was gonna say you're disappointed in our girl, but I'm pretty sure every episode she's written has been garbage.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
She's
was
the first female to write something for the show for Batman, and she's just failed in every turn.
And this is where Bruce just keeps being a fucking asshole. You should work on your stealth skills. I could hear you coming halfway across the rooftop. Motherfucker, who trained me? I learned by watching you, world's greatest detective.
By the way, this is racist right here.
A little bit. I was really hoping that, and I know things didn't work out that way, but I was hoping we were going to record this episode last week because it's like, spoiler alert, it's a monkey! It's going to be Monkey Weekend. The notion of a gorilla wearing a trench coat and like bandit mask amuses the hell out of me, though.
I have this in my head, a conversation we had at the shop, like probably when we first met.
Okay.
Where it was, what's the covers that sell the best?
Yeah, covers the monkeys on them.
Yeah, and it was the purple monkey.
Well, because years ago, I found it since a few times too, and I can't remember the woman. It was a woman, I believe, that actually did like the number crunching on it. But it was in the 70s. What covers sold the best? And the covers that sold the best, like 1 and 2, were covers with monkeys on them, and covers that predominantly featured the color purple. And then, like the next, like after that study came out, or the person that did it, or something, put out a comic that was like a purple monkey.
Well, wasn't somewhere in that list too like word balloons, like covers with word balloons on it?
Possibly. I mean, it's been a long time. So this guy, hold on, because we're dealing with a fucking clown now, who is acting like a mime. He pulls a flower out of his pants that then shoots snakes at a young boy. There's a lot of sexual innuendo happening here that I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah, there's some issues.
There's also the whole thing of like, he comes back to the circus and everyone's like, hey, little Dickie Grayson. But like, the whole thing about Carney folk is that they travel. So how did he just happen to? I don't know. It just meh.
Well, as we discussed before, Gotham's the only city in the world.
That's true.
But so to finish my thought, I've had in the back of my head since then, well, over the past couple of years when I've been thinking about or making comics, that I just want a variant cover that's just like a purple monkey with a machine gun with a word balloon that says, "Please buy this comic."
I like that. I've thought about that before too. Of just
I
like
think
doing.
I might have stolen that from you from like a conversation we had or something. But that conversation, for some reason, has stuck with me all these years.
It's one of the things that's hilarious. It's me, Dickie. Fucking everyone's calling him Dickie. You've grown. So have you. So the note I wrote was double on dictras because there's so many double entendres that were, including just saying dick a lot. So you knew Dick when we were kids? Oh, I knew Dick. Like, just Jesus Christ.
So, all these people who knew Dick when he was a little boy, he's now come back, and all of them are googly eyeing. I'm like, oh yeah, like I want a piece of that. It's strange on so many levels. I'm more comfortable with the clown pulling a flower out of his pants and shooting snakes at a young boy than I am all these people who knew Dick as a child and now want to bone him.
Oh. The one line I did enjoy was, what happened to your folks? Oh, they retired to Sarasota. Like, just, carnies don't retire. I'm sorry. Carnies die. Carnies don't retire. My parents are dead. Like, just, we get it. Your parents are dead. Yeah, Bruce, I know. That's why I'm looking at the pictures.
This is the moment where if we were writing it, it would have been Batman walking up to him and be like, "We get it, Dick. Your parents are dead."
I think you're the only person with dead parents.
My parents were dead before everybody.
My parents were the first parents to die. I don't think that's how it works, Bruce. I also love how, like, there's this constant them in arguing, and it always ends up that Dick's actually right because no, what? Like, Bruce is just a dick. What? I mean, he's literally in the Batcave. You're clearly working together. Why are you so angry? Now, mind you, and I'm asking because I also don't remember what series we're going to after this. Does Dick show up in Batman Beyond? Best of your memory. I mean, you know.
I know he shows up in the comics. I don't think he shows up in the show.
Okay.
Because in the comics, there's been multiple times where he shows up, but in the newest version, he shows up and his daughter becomes Batwoman.
Lady.
Yeah, Lady Batman.
Fucking bear. Just got mauled by a goddamn bear. Like,
even better if it was a Russian bear that drinks vodka.
well, no, and then when I watched this, all I started thinking about is just, well, then Superman starts wrestling a polar bear. Do you know what polar bears are? Like, that's all I could think of. It's just, yeah, no, Batman's got to wrestle a fucking bear now. Sure, why not? They're the deadliest animals in the in the mammal kingdom.
It makes me laugh because I make the joke where I like, so and so razzled a, X razzled a Y, and everybody's like, "Where'd you get that? Like, where does razzle come from?" I was like, "Am I the only person that saw that?"
Yes, you and I are the only two people that have ever watched that thing because it's too long.
Oh, it's phenomenal though.
The first one, yes. Once we started to get to like the fourth and fifth one, where like I can't remember, it's one I own because I bought it at like Walmart for $3. But there's one of those where he literally answers one question.
It's
Like
the
he does.
third one.
Yeah, okay. And
And
that's where I'm like, I'm out. I'm good.
that's where it gets a little off the rails. But the first two are phenomenal. And technically it's the first three because the second one is two separate
Okay.
talks.
But yeah. But
Yeah.
just well, and that's just it. And it's something I was talking about with a buddy, that we don't have to get into too much, but it was
An
about
evening
Vince.
with Kevin Smith, everybody, in case no
Yeah,
one caught on.
I was gonna get there. I was gonna get there, but I was just taking the long way, taking the scenic route. Apparently, Nightwing is fucking a licensed forklift operator. Uh,
Yeah, it's not that hard.
I mean, well, okay, we are in the 40s. It would have been hard, but yeah, I guess we're in modern day now, so it's not that bad. But I don't know, razzling a bear with a forklift, that's some advanced shit. But it was something I was talking. Fucking Bullock, just that they send Bullock to bring the bears back cracks me. That they put the bears in the troop carrier. Like, so many choices are being made here that just astound me. And I love too that they're like sniffing, and she's like, "Bitch, get the fuck off! Get in the cage, motherfucker!" I'm like, sorry, mom. You know, because I think Bullock said something. We got enough yahoos running around this city without having to deal with Yogi and Boo Boo too. Fucking Bullock.
It makes me so happy he makes that reference.
Ugh. And by that time, Toots, you better have something more to say than I don't know. Fucking bears. Oh yeah, and then the clown. Yeah, the clown. That's tremendous. And Mr. Happy. That he's arguing with a mime is priceless. And he pulls stuff out of his pants. When you To anyone that's for some reason didn't watch this episode, when you find out who the clown really is, it all makes sense that he's a fucking creep. But to go back to what I was saying, the progression of the evenings with Kevin Smith is very similar to something I was talking about with a friend. That was the how Vince McMahon in wrestling was kind of like a victim of his own success. In that, like, the first evening with Kevin Smith was great because it was his age, and it was the first time he was doing it, and he was just telling all these stories nobody had ever heard, and these questions.
Nobody else was doing that. There
Right,
weren't podcasts. Nobody was doing this shit.
right. And then, like, so the first one was great. The second one was good, and I'm sure sold well enough to justify it. And so then he just kind of, and it, in my opinion, it's what happened with his movies too, where he just kind of forgot why people loved it, and just kind of became a victim of his own success. Where it's like, well, people just love hearing me talk, and it's like, no, people love hearing you tell stories, but you're not making as many stories because now you're doing these things, and
Well, that's the problem with people who become professional podcasters and that type of podcasting. Is people like you because you have stories.
right,
Well, once you're no longer living a real life and
right.
you're living this fantasy life, your stories are no longer very interesting.
This is hilarious to me. That the Bears use a keypad is just amazing. I know why they do, but still, that the Bears turn the lights off and then hit the keypad. I'm like, Jesus. Well, and it's so because the only other one that I wouldn't count Rogan because Rogan's also a comedian and that's different. And Kevin ultimately, no matter what, was still just a regular guy. So that's where he became a regular guy without money or a regular guy with money. But Penn Jillette has suffered from it a little bit, but he's survived by just genuinely being nuts. And that's what Penn always says. Like, Penn's just a weird dude. He's always had a weird way of looking at the world. So whether he had money or not, he always has interesting stories because he just has an interesting, different perspective. Whereas Kevin was just a regular guy from Jersey. So, like, he doesn't have a unique, interesting perspective. He just had unique, interesting experiences that then stopped being that way, because then that's just where you start being that way. So, Mad Hatter, or Jervis Tetch, sorry, not Mad Hatter, Jervis Tetch, makes a pretty lady showing her midriff get tied up by a snake because he's a fucking creep, because he was the clown all along.
Yeah. Which checks, like, it fits.
Yeah, absolutely. Checks out. The math seems to check out. Now, if she was Catwoman, she wouldn't have this issue.
It's true. Fucking terrible episode. This whole show is just garbage.
It is. It's true.
Just want to get to Batman Beyond. Which, by the way, that's what we're doing next.
I know. I figured you'd get back there. I was like, I don't know. I'll forget again. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah, I know. Trust me. Well, actually, we're not doing that next. We're doing a couple episodes of Superman next. Then we're doing Batman Beyond.
So, I told Doozer about that when we had like our first initial talk where you're like, this is what we're going to do. I'm like, all right, cool. And I told Doozer, and he's like, well, because he's the super Bat fan, and he owns, all the Timverse series on DVD or Blu-rays now, whatever. And he goes, well, do you care about them being in order? And I go, why? He goes, well, because if you do the Superman episodes after the last season, or after, New Batman Adventures, he goes, those are technically out of order. I go, we don't care. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter.
Well, and that was the original plan, but DC Universe fucked it all up.
That's true, too.
By doing exactly what I said they were going to do.
I know. But yeah, that's true, too. But it's also just whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter, like...
It doesn't at the end of the day. Because honestly, if I knew this was as bad as it was, we would have never dove into the show. Just like we're not diving into the Batman.
Oh, we're not? Okay.
I have bad memories of that show. I have no interest in going back to it. And then what was the CGI one?
I don't even remember the CGI one, honestly.
Like, that one I'm not doing. I'd never watched it. I don't want to watch it. I don't need Alfred as a 20-something with guns helping Bruce out. Like, that just doesn't need to be in my life.
Never watched that one. The Batman, I think I told you I watched the Batman, and it wasn't... It was better than this, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. From what I remember, you're correct, but I had never watched this, and I was told that this was an extension of the animated series. Those people were wrong, and this is why I don't listen to people anymore.
Oh, shit.
The same kind of people that told me, oh, the third Transformer movie gets really good. No. No, it doesn't.
I mean, it's one of those things that, again, it comes back to wrestling, and it comes in a lot into comics in general, too, where it's... And most people aren't aware of it. And I've been aware of it for a long time, which is why a lot of people get annoyed with me. But the truth is, a lot of people just keep thinking something's good because they're invested in it. Like, well, I've watched it this long, so I can't admit it's bad and stop watching it. And here's the little spoiler, folks. You can always just stop. You can always just stop reading it, stop watching it, and you'll be happier for it. Like, there's no, Sky Daddy keeping track and being like, well, you did watch every episode of Batman the Animated Series, so you get a gold star. Like, nobody cares. And life's too short.
Well, I got a lot of shit for it at the time, but I don't care because I end up being right at the end of the day. I stopped watching Game of Thrones because all Game of Thrones kept doing was, hey, see this thing that's really cool that we say we're going to do? Oh, it's the last episode of the season. Here it is. And then we won't talk about it for 2 more seasons. I'm just like, this is bullshit. I don't care anymore.
Okay, so...
And then when everybody hated the ending, I just looked at them and said, well, I gave up like 4 seasons ago, so I win.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have the problems with the ending that other people did, but that's also because, A, I came into it at the end of season 3 or 4, and that was because a pretty lady said she would go on a date with me if I watched it all, and I said okay, and I watched it all in like 3 days. I also happened to be sick, so that's where it was like I'm just gonna lay in bed and watch all of this. Never got my date for the record. Because lying whores. Sorry, Frank Miller came in for a minute. But the thing that annoys me more about the Game of Thrones fandom in general are the people who are like, oh god, the ending of the show was so bad. I can't wait for the books to come out because they'll be so better. At which point I go, as someone who's never read the books but had read about the books, all the problems with the show come from the books. Like the reason, like like what you're saying, where it's hey, here's this really cool thing, and then we're just gonna abandon it and not come back to it forever. That's how George R.R. Martin writes, because he treats his fans as his opponents and changes things when people figure out how shit's supposed to end.
Yeah.
So this is weird, but anyway, just making Tim fucking clean up bear shit.
It's how every rich kid should spend his day.
Yeah, but Tim's not rich. Tim was literally a street kid.
Yeah,
like,
but now he lives with Bruce. He's rich.
Yeah, but my point is he's already been through the shit, literally. Bruce should be in there cleaning up the bear shit.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. But no, it's just
No, I said at the time when they did the first at the end of the first season when they killed
Sean
the dad from what's that show? I was gonna say Malcolm in the Middle. Was not Malcolm in the Middle. It's something else.
No, it's Game of Thrones. When they killed the dad in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, there you go. When they killed him, like okay, like I get it. Like you got invested in him. We're gonna kill him. Okay, cool.
Right.
But then when the Red Wedding hit and everybody was like, "Oh my god," I'm like, "This is stupid." Like I can't. Like the whole reason I get into these types of stories is I want to get invested in characters. Right. And every time George Railroad Martin gets me invested in a character, he kills them.
Yeah.
And I get that's kind of the point, but it doesn't mean I have to like it.
Right. Well, it's something that again, everything comes back to wrestling because it does. It's stunt booking is what it is, where it's, and that's to your point, I think that's what drew a lot of people in, because people who don't, and something I say about other things too, but people who don't have the experience in the genre fiction or don't have a creative background, it's like, oh my god, they killed one of the main characters at the end, and then you build up Rob, and then oh my god, they killed Rob and his whole army, and oh my god. So then what they, in their heads, and this is what George and the showrunners designed it for, is oh my god, so there must be something even greater. There must be something even bigger. They're going to go somewhere even better with all of this. And that's something that gets done in wrestling. It's something that gets done in comics, where it's that heightening. And the problem is, and it's ultimately what did happen with Game of Thrones, you reach a level where nothing you can do can match those expectations, because people have built it up in their heads. It doesn't mean that it was good. It doesn't mean it was good to literally have the little girl stab the Night King, who we really never knew anything about, and then destroy all the ice zombies at once. That doesn't make that a good decision, but there was nothing they could have done with the Night King that would have ever matched what people had built up in their minds of what the ice zombies, I'm going to call them ice zombies now because it makes me laugh, what the ice zombies could have been, what the Night King was. Like, you just couldn't do it because you teased it too long. It's putting the pussy on a pedestal.
So speaking of wrestling, real quick, I saw that a little bit of my chocolate got into your peanut butter recently, with a new commentator for SmackDown.
Oh yeah, he's already wrestled on the shows.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Okay, he's a sports commentator.
Yeah, well, he has a show, right? Or he did have a show, didn't he?
Yeah. And he does everything, but he's an ex-NFL player.
For those that don't know sports, the Pat McAfee show. Pat McAfee is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because he was on. It was funny because WWE is nigh unwatchable, but I listen to Cornette's podcasts, and people want him to watch the current product and talk about it because he was a manager and in the business for decades. So they're like, "Well, what do you think about this?" So he was on NXT, which was their Wednesday programming and their quote unquote developmental program. And he was on there, and I think he wrestled like a 6-man tag or something, and everyone thought it was really funny because he showed up and was basically the biggest heel in the company. And part of it was because I guess he's actually friends with an old time wrestler who trained him like at his house. Like they built a ring or they built a workout space or whatever. And he got trained the old way. You used to get trained to be a wrestler. So like a lot of his fundamentals were good, and he understood like from years of being a player and the press and having the show, and then being a wrestling fan, being an old time wrestling fan, and getting trained by an old time wrestler. His fundamentals were good, and just his shit talking was good. So it's like he just instantly became the biggest heel. And yeah, I saw that now he's going to be a commentator on SmackDown, which doesn't matter because they're all garbage and it's all annoying and I hate it.
I don't watch him all the time, but I like him because he feels like what I would be if I got that kind of success. Because there was a recent thing where another big time sports journalist called him out, was just like, well, that guy's not a real journalist, and had this whole hour conversation about how he's not a real journalist and blah blah blah.
Sure.
And so Pat got on his show and they're all talking, and one of the guys was like, did you hear what so and so said about you? He goes, yeah. He said, I'm not a real journalist. He's right.
Right.
He goes, that's not what I'm trying to be, so I don't understand what the big deal is.
Well, and it's one of those things, and it made me laugh because, like I said, the wrestling, I told you I was watching wrestling earlier because my buddy got Peacock because he wanted to watch WrestleMania, and I made a comment to him like, oh, I might Twitch steal it, which for anyone listening is not technically illegal, and I'm not technically stealing anything, so fuck off. And he goes, well, here's my login. If you want to watch it, just watch it. I'm like, okay. So I have Peacock until he cancels it. So I'm like, oh, we'll watch some old wrestling. So I'm watching an old Royal Rumble where Bobby Heenan is one of the commentators, and it kept making me laugh because Bobby Heenan just keeps going, I'm a sports journalist. I'm a sports journalist. And he's not, and that's the joke, and that's why he's doing it to get heat. But at one point he says something, he's insulting one of the wrestlers or whatever. And Monsoon goes, how can you say that? And he goes, I'm a sports journalist. I can say or do whatever I want. And it just cracked me up. It's just like, yeah, it's... First off, none of these motherfuckers are actual journalists, so they can all fuck off. None of these sports journalists. They're not... I mean, maybe there is, but
there are.
I'm sure, right? That's why I walked it back. I'm sure there are. All these motherfuckers that have radio shows, they're not journalists. Just like, I don't even know who hosts the ABC Nightly News anymore, but the hosts of these TV news shows, they're not journalists. They're not worth the story. You know what I mean?
You're correct about that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
anybody that has a show on CNN, Fox News, whatever, right. Just like anybody that has a show on ESPN or whatever, they're not journalists. They're hosts.
Or even your local nightly news. I mean, maybe a little bit there, but most of them don't work the story really. They may call somebody for comment, but they're not. It's not this old idea we have of and there are still reporters, there are still journalists, there are still people that go out and actually get the story. But A, there's not that much money in it. There never was. And B, none of those. If you do a show, you literally don't have time to do that. Yeah. And so,
especially if it's a daily show.
Yeah. It's one thing if it's. I mean, but still, it's something that I'm dealing with a lot right now, and it's all in my head, so I accept it. And part of it's, again, I think I've told you this in private, but I'll say it in public, because fuck everybody. Part of it comes from Yambar too, and conversations we had, where it's just, it's all this ego. that just drives me nuts, where it's everybody just stroking their own ego, like, well, he's not a real sports journalist. And that's where I'll give you that. I like McAfee for saying that too. He's like, yeah, he's right, I'm not.
Yeah.
Because at a certain point, people just be real. Like, it's okay. It's okay to be a host. It's okay that I have a show, and so I talk about the news, I report the news, but I'm not a journalist. Or I have a show, I can't think of his name because I don't hear it anymore. But I have a sports talk show on the AM station. I'm not a journalist. I just talk to other people and report and read articles and other news I hear. But I'm not a journalist. I'm not getting the story. I'm a personality, and I'm selling my personality. That's all fine, but own it. Accept it. Be honest about that's who. It's what I said, and I'll say this too. And people, maybe we'll get some fucking hate mail eventually. It's the same thing with Elon Musk. It's the same thing with Steve Jobs. They were not inventors. They were not geniuses. They were marketing people. Jobs dead. Elon's still around. Elon Musk is not a genius. Elon Musk is not an inventor. He's a marketing guy. That's all he ultimately is. Maybe he has a couple good ideas and he's having other people carry those ideas out, but he's not making a new battery for his car, for the Teslas. He's not developing the solar panels. He just goes, hey, what if we went to space? Can we do that? Steve Jobs. Hey, what if we made everything white? That'd look cool, right? Like, that's all it is. Now, you'll notice I'm leaving one name off of there, Bill Gates. The reason I'm leaving Bill Gates off is there are problems with Bill Gates. I've had problems with Bill Gates for as long as I've known about tech shit. But Bill Gates, at a certain point, did some of the work. Bill Gates, at certain points, even if he did steal ideas, because, all ideas, like you said, all ideas are stolen.
Well, let me throw this out here real quick.
Thank you for my TED Talk. Go ahead.
We don't have to preface it everything anymore. I'm sick of prefacing everything. Everybody in the world, every single person that has ever existed ever, has fucked up in some way.
Sure. Yes.
So just because we say we like somebody doesn't mean we agree with everything they did. I like Orson Scott Card. He's still a crazy homophobe.
Right. Well, here's what I'll say, because I agree with you. The only reason why I still have the habit of doing it, and this goes to something that happened in my personal life that I don't even really remember right now, but whatever. I do it for me. I say it for me because I think there's value in saying, hey, I like this person, and I'm speaking about this general point. We're way off the weeds now, but fuck it. I was about this general point, and I still admit that this person has failings. I get what you're saying. I agree.
Yeah.
We shouldn't always preface it, but I think there's still enough people that don't do it for me personally, just for me. I would never ask this of anybody else. For me, I still find value in being like, hey, I really like this guy. Sure, they did some fucked up shit, or sure, they're not perfect, but I still like them, and whatever.
I just watch the world around me. I'm like, it's whenever you say something nice about somebody, oh, so you're okay with this? I didn't say I was. I just said, like, you know what? I enjoyed watching Michael Vick play football. Oh, so you're okay with him dogfighting? No, he's an asshole for dogfighting.
Yeah.
But I liked watching him play football.
Yeah, and this goes back to its conversation, and I'll just say it here, where it's also the people around us, because it's like, I love Stone Cold. I love Stone Cold Steve Austin. I always have. For those that don't know, there was an incident in 2003 where he was charged with domestic abuse. I don't think he was ever convicted, but he had like community service or whatever. And it's never happened again. There's never been reports with any of his other wives or partners or whatever that it's ever happened again. So the only reason I'm saying that is to give the full picture of when I say I love Stone Cold, there's no one in my world that goes, oh, so you're okay with him beating his wife? Nobody says that to me. So that's why I don't have that reaction. That doesn't invalidate, and I'm saying this for the audience, not for you, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't invalidate Chris's experience, but it's just something that I also draw to where it's like, we have access. Now I am pontificating, so fucking send in your tithes, send in your money. We live in a world with the greatest access to technology and communications ever. We can know more and know more about people than ever. But we seem to have forgotten that people's experiences are different. And it's okay for them to be different. And you can give people credit for their different experiences. Like, I'm not doubting at all what Chris just said. I know for a fact from conversations Chris and I have had, not on the podcast, that he's telling the truth. But I don't have those experiences. So we can both say what we're saying and both be right and both feel the way we feel. And if more people in the world remember that every day, I think we'd be doing a lot better.
I watched the...
Send me 10% of your income. Go on.
I watched the Tiger Woods doc the other day.
Okay. I didn't even know there was a Tiger Woods doc out, by the way.
Yeah, it's on HBO Max. It's basically 2 movies. It's like 3 hours altogether. 2 episodes,
Okay.
hour and a half each.
Okay.
And it's really fucking good. Like, probably up there with how good the Michael Jordan doc was.
Okay.
And I was talking to somebody, I was talking with somebody about it, and I was like, it reiterates to me that Tiger Woods is the greatest comeback story of our time. And they're like, yeah, we did all that stuff. It's like, yeah, that's why it's a comeback story, because he fucked up royally. Like, right. I shouldn't have to preface it this. Like, right. Yeah, he fucked up. But at the end of the day, like, how he fucked up wasn't even really that bad. Like, he did things that were shitty, but he didn't kill anybody. He didn't really hurt anybody. He just kind of abused people emotionally through his actions that were, when you really dig into the doc, where his father was an asshole.
Well,
and I was like, but still, like, I watched the 3 hours. I lived the experience. I understand he fucked up. I understand he did bad things. But that's what makes it a comeback story.
Well, and part of it too is like, unless something else came out in the doc that I'm unaware of, but I'm assuming you're referring to him sleeping around on his wife, right? That's basically what the crux of it was.
Basically what like kind of sent him down the path.
Okay, so ultimately, that's between him and his wife. Like, the judging, when you say or we say that, like, oh, it wasn't that bad, it's not saying that, like, she shouldn't feel betrayed, but it's none of our fucking business. It's not our business what he does. Or that's between him and his wife, and he has wronged her, and that's for them to deal with. Versus what you said, where it's like, if he kills somebody, okay, we've agreed as a society that if you just kill somebody in cold blood, then that's an action against society, because that's our societal contract. Like, there's nothing in our societal contract about who fucks who. I know some people make it that way, but it's not.
I'm willing. I'm going to go out there and bring up 2 names to piss off 2 fan bases. One, because I really enjoyed doing it. The second one, just to prove a point. That it's not because of race is the point. The first person is, so we have a big issue with what Tiger did.
Okay.
And we forget that Ben Roethlisberger raped 2 women.
Yeah.
All the Steelers fans send me hate mail. I don't care. Ben Roethlisberger raped 2 women and got away with it. Then, to prove my point that I'm not just talking about, doing a white versus black thing, Ray Lewis killed a man and got away with it.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm saying there's degrees.
Yeah. I know. It's... Yeah. It's... I know. We're definitely in the weeds now, but we're both just... I hopped right on that soapbox. I don't care. Because fuck it. Whatever. It just...
Well, it's something I said forever, where it's just with Clinton back in the 90s. Like, the big thing was, he lied and lied to Congress, and that's why he really got in trouble. But at the end of the day, like, okay, so he got his dick sucked. Why is that anyone's problem but him and Hillary's?
Right.
And Monica's?
Right. Well, and then that's where it's one of those things that I mean, mind you, I was listening to different radio shows back then. But it's one of those things that I never thought about until later, and where Monica talked about it years later, where she's like, so this thing happened, right? And you look at it, and whether you say it was an abuse of power as him as the president and she was the intern, or whether you look at it as, he betrayed his wife by going outside of their marriage, assuming that they're not cool with it, like, because that's just ultimately where we don't know, because it's not our fucking business.
It's not a problem.
Right. And ultimately, societally, who got punished? Monica Lewinsky. Because Monica Lewinsky, she talked about where she had trouble getting jobs and people would come up to her and make blowjob jokes and whatever. And she was young, and it's like, she didn't sign up for that. She didn't give her life over to being a punchline for the rest of her life. And no matter how you look at it, like, the worst thing she did was suck the dick of a married man. And that like, not that that's cool with everybody, but it's like, when you look at all the angles, like, she didn't betray anybody's marriage. He could have told her Hillary was cool with it. Like, she didn't. All she did was suck a married guy's dick. That's what she did. She was a young girl that sucked a married guy's dick. Why did she deserve to be this pariah for however long and whatever long? Because, we don't, whatever. I'm ranting. I'm ranting now. This is Ranting Joe. I don't think you've ever met Ranting Joe, audience, but this is Ranting Joe. It's not Angry Joe. Angry Joe is angry. Ranting Joe just fucking says, Ranting Joe has opinions, and I'm not afraid to share those opinions.
So we're definitely going to be in the longest episode of Bat Friends because we ranted. But everybody, find Joe at Cthulhu Holmes. Find me at Fortress Chris. And Joe, you wanted to say something about a charity before we end the episode. So go ahead.
Chris is going to put the details in, so whatever. But we talked about it a few weeks ago. My friend Chris Yambar died, and his wife recently put out information that there is going to be a Chris Yambar scholarship for students at Youngstown State University, YSU. I think it's what it stands for, whatever. And they're taking donations for the initial scholarship class, as it were. And what she said is, if the initial donations reach over $1,000, the scholarship will be incorporated or whatever. I don't know what the term is, but basically it will mean that scholarship exists and will be awarded to a YSU student YSU student forever, for as long as this charity exists. It's called Tuition Mission, I believe. Like I said, details will be places. It'll be in the podcast description. I'll put it up on joepank.com. Actually, if you guys don't see it, I may tweet it out too. You will have to mail a check to their address, and on the memo line, or a money order. You can do a money order, and on the memo line, write Chris Yambar so that they know it's going to Chris's scholarship. This is, as Maureen said. Maureen is his widow. As Maureen said, this is one of those things that Chris would always joke about and scoff about in public. But from private conversations I had with my friend, this is absolutely something he would love. He cared about students. He cared about education. He wanted people to be better educated. And the fact that it will benefit people who are either from his hometown or going to school in his hometown would make him very happy. So it would mean a lot to me if you guys would give something towards that. If you can't, of course we understand. Times are tough. But even $10, $5, if you want to write a check for $1 and put Chris Yambar on there, I can guarantee you two things. One, Chris would think that was hilarious, and so you win. Two, I appreciate it. So please look for the details. It's going to be in the fall, so you guys have a few months. It's not something you have to do tomorrow. But if we rally everybody, I'm going to be talking about Joe Meets World. I'm going to be trying to put it out there. If we rally everybody and get a huge amount of money, that will really mean the world to me, and it would mean the world to Maureen. And even though he's dead, it would have meant a lot to Chris. So just something to think about. I will bring it up again, but I'll try not to talk your guys' ears off about it.
They're trying to reach 1,000.
I believe that's the number.
Okay, if the number's 1,000, everybody, that's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't want to give away my personal finances, but like that is a lot of money to me. But in terms of a collective, like $1,000 is not a lot of money.
I agree.
So it should be an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody. So make sure to check out that in the show notes, as well as everything else in the show notes and our socials. we'll see you all next week, where Joe and I will be in the same room again, touching each other as we do this podcast.
I think we'll both be fully vaccinated, so there may be lazy hand jobs abound. Go us.